Alright guys, so this is the last short little blurb of notes that I'm going to do with you via the computer, which I know you probably hate, and I don't love it either, but this is just the best of the situation that we can do. So the last thing we're going to talk about is determining the cost of using electrical devices when you know the wattage rating and the cost of electricity. So, things that you're going to have to know. First of all, the wattage rating, which usually that is found on the nameplate or a tag of whatever device that you want to know the rating on. And then the other thing you need to know is the cost of electricity, which is usually found on your electric bill. And so we're going to talk about this in a second, but normally when you talk about cost of electricity, it's in kilowatt hours, not in watts. And so when you figure out the wattage rating, maybe it's a 1200 watts microwave, well, you're going to have to make sure that you get it all in the same unit, which in terms of electricity cost usually is kilowatts. Alright, so the number of watts used is the wattage on the nameplate if that appliance were used for 1 full hour. So if you have a 1200 watt microwave, if you use the microwave for 60 minutes straight, it would use 1200 watts. So here's kind of an example of how you are going to figure it out. If you have a 100 watt light bulb burned for 8 hours, it would use 800 watts. So you use 100 watts in 1 hour, you use it for 8 hours, you're going to have 800 watts. And now, to determine the cost I just said earlier, you're going to have to convert it to kilowatt hours. So you're going to divide the number of total watts used divided by 1,000. So if this example, if you used 100 watts or 800 watts total, then you would divide that by 1,000. So realistically, you're going to use 0.8 kilowatts in an hour for that microwave. So if you are using that 0.8 kilowatt hours, assuming that your electricity costs 8 cents per kilowatt hour, which that's a little low, but for the sake of this example, it's just fine. You're going to take that 0.8 kilowatt hour times by 8 cents, and it's going to cost you a little over 6 cents to use that light bulb. Here's another example. So you're going to determine the cost of operating a fridge rated at 500 watts for 1 week, assuming that it's actually cooling only 4 hours per day. So sometimes your fridge is not doing cooling the whole time if the temperature is like nice out. So say you're using it for 4 hours per day, for 1 week, 500 watts a week, or 500 watts an hour. So you're going to take the number of watts, which is 500, that's on that nameplate. We're going to take it by the number of hours used per day. So we're going to say we use it 4 hours per day. And then you're going to have to multiply the number of days in a week, which hopefully you know is 7. So you're going to do 500 times 4. So you've got 2,000. And then times 7. So you're looking at 14,000. Then you're going to have to divide that by 1,000, which again is the number of watts in a kilowatt. And so you are going to get 14 kilowatt hours. Hopefully everybody got that. Now, if you're trying to figure out the cost, so you're going to say it costs 8 cents per kilowatt hour again. You're going to take your 14 kilowatt hours times 8 cents, and it's going to cost you about $1.12 to run your fridge for a week. Okay, so that wraps up that. There is a PowerPoint or a YouTube video, for you to watch that maybe will help explain it a little bit more. And then these subs should have a worksheet for you to do for determining electrical costs. Make sure you're showing your work so that if things aren't right when I get back, I can kind of follow your line of thinking and figure out maybe where the mistake was made. So I hope you guys have a great weekend. See y'all on Monday.